Hypothetically speaking, if I had a child in public school and I was going to pull them out to start homeschooling, this is exactly how I would do it. This first thing is actually not necessary, but it is kind of like a courtesy to the school, but I would let the school know that you're going to be pulling the child out. Now, I say this is a courtesy, it's not a necessity, because as a teacher, I can tell you there were many years where I had students that were pulled out of public school in the middle of the year and nobody let us know, and we were kind of left wondering like, okay, is the child coming back? Are they not? But you don't have to let the school know. Step number 2, if you're in a state that requires a letter of intent, this is exactly why you don't actually have to let the school know, because once you file that letter of intent with your school district, your child is automatically removed from the system as a public school student, and they are now considered a homeschooling student. So eventually the school will get that notification that your child is now being homeschooled. Speaking of the letter of intent, you also need to make sure that you know your homeschool state laws. So if you are in a state that requires a letter of intent, you do not, I repeat, you do not have to file that letter of intent before you pull your kid out, especially if there is like an emergency type situation or you've got like bullying on your hands or something like that. Like, do not send your kid to that school another single day. Like, you can do the letter of intent, days after you pull them out, but if you need to get them out, you get them out. Now, the next thing I would do, and there's a little bit of flexibility here because every family's different, I personally would take a little break. I would not just jump right into another curriculum. Like, kind of enjoy your time together. Maybe take a week or two before you actually start school again. And you can take this time, this break time, without feeling the pressure to start something, to actually start researching how you want to run your homeschool. This could include starting to research curriculums. Me personally, YouTube was the best resource. YouTube, TikTok, videos like this. I would watch those videos from other creators to get an idea of what kind of curriculum we wanted to use. I would also take this time to start developing some kind of schedule. Now, again, this is not necessary, but for me, I need a schedule. You can sit down, you can kind of map out your day. I have a schedule template that you can go grab from my website. It's free. You can use a blank sheet of notebook paper, whatever works for you. Let's kind of get an idea of how your homeschooling day might look. So you pulled your kid out, you've looked up your homeschool laws, you've done your letter of intent if you need to, you've taken a little break, you've researched your curriculums, you've found a schedule. The next thing that I would do is I would start looking into homeschool co-ops. Everybody is so worried about homeschooled kids not being properly socialized. If you are worried about that, one way that you can solve this problem is to join a homeschool co-op. It's basically a group of fellow homeschooling parents in your area that get together either for academics once or twice a week. Maybe it's just a social group where you go to the park and you have your kids playing together throughout the week. This is just one option. You do not have to join a co-op. The socialization thing with homeschooling kids, it's such a joke because even if you're not a part of a homeschool co-op, you have extracurriculars that your child is a part of, personal friend groups, separate play dates, that kind of thing. But for me personally, I like the co-op, so I would go and research co-ops. And then the last thing I would do is I would just get started. The important thing about this is you might have to restart several times before you find something that works. Whether that be changing up the curriculum that you chose. Us personally, we have changed curriculums several times to find what works. I can assure you, you are definitely probably going to be changing your schedule up. You have the best intentions when you sit down and you write down how your day is going to go, and then you actually try it out and you realize you need to go back to the drawing board. That is perfectly okay. Now, there is one thing too that I forgot to mention, and this is super important in my eyes, because you can't always trust the public school's reporting system when it comes to figuring out how your kid actually did this year, if they're on grade level, below grade level, what they know, what they need to know. So I highly recommend doing some kind of diagnostic or placement test to figure out exactly what level your kid is on. Especially if you're going to go buy curriculum, and let's say you're buying second grade curriculum and then your kid starts doing it and you realize it's way too hard, you need to go back and buy first grade curriculum, now you're just wasting money. But if you've done some kind of placement or diagnostic test, which I have tons of videos showing you different options for that, then you kind of can pinpoint where they are and make sure you're purchasing curriculum around that level and not wasting your money. Yanking your kid out of school to homeschool for the very first time can be terrifying. It's really like unknown territory for most families, myself included. Even though I was a public school teacher, I had no experience with homeschooling. So I feel like narrowing it down to steps, like a system like this, that is what helped me and hopefully will help other people as well.